Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. I'm your host for LT Productions. You are watching I Watch You Watch. We are covering Sistas. This is season 7, episode 13. No, you don't see my face today, unfortunately, but we're going to get right into this episode. But before we do, please like this video. Also, subscribe to my channel. All right, so again, we are with Gary, Andy, and Jordan. We kind of left off where we start where we left off on last week's episode. Gary's at the police precinct, and also Andy. Gary got a head start and started talking to a detective that he knows concerning Penelope. Of course, Jordan comes with Andy, and they confront Gary as to what is he doing. He's talking with the detective, and Gary's giving his perspective of he's worried about his pregnant fiance, and looking at the call log, it looks like Jordan was the last person that was in contact with her. He begins to fake cry, and of course, Andy is reacting and trying to be professional at the same time. My, my. Gary, you such a sneak and so crazy. Ugh. So Gary goes off with the detective, and he talks some more, and he cries a little bit more. Andy is asked by someone else to talk with her. She sends Jordan off, and Jordan's like, "What are you talking about? That's my sister." She said, "Andy, I don't think." Andy tells Jordan that he isn't. She doesn't think that it was a good idea for him to still be down here. He just got out of a scandal. Let me handle things here, and I will contact you once I'm done from over here. Um, she says, "Don't do anything rash." He agrees. They kiss. Andy goes into the office and talks to this detective. He starts questioning her about certain things about Penelope, but then he reveals his true motive because it looks like he's interrogating her, but it's not. He's not. He is a special agent for the FBI, and they're looking to prosecute Gary. We also find out that he was an agent during a time where they were investigating Gary during the embezzlement scheme thing. And Andy finally remembers whom he is, which is Agent Watts. Um, and he talks briefly about, look, we need you to investigate, to testify against Gary. And of course, she doesn't know what she wants to do, but possibly she really thinks that she's going to have to comply. Comply. So after that, Gary leaves the precinct. He's in the parking lot and talking with Hudson, his assistant, and basically said, "How did it go?" He said, "I'm glad that I got here first. I think they believe everything I got to say." Then he says that I need you to do what we were going to do. Hudson says that he's thinking that she's going to be a problem. Whomever she is, I guess we'll find out. But Gary says if she is, then she's going to live to regret it. And Jordan follows Gary and Hudson. All right. In the next scene is Zach and Fatima. This is morning. Fatima has fixed her breakfast. Zach is asking, this is all you fix? He's like, yeah, I didn't know that you were going to be up this early. Fatima's up very early in the morning, and she's studying in regards to Karen's condition as far as getting pregnant with twins and having two baby fathers. In the meanwhile, Zach says that he's getting a lawyer to go against Gary to get his money back. And also, he's wanting to set up a trust for his quote unquote baby girl. And Fatima's like, Karen's not going to be down for that. Those twins are a package deal. And Zach's like, I don't care about that. Aaron can do his, and I can do mine. Blah 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 blah. So then Karen says what she's been researching at how odd it is or rare for Karen to get pregnant the way that she did. The condition is called a superfuckadation. I just think the writers wanted us to cuss, in my opinion. I ain't ever heard of that, but y'all let me know if you've heard that. So, Fatima suggests that Zach, you need to talk with Aaron, and it's about co-parenting. Karen's not gonna be down for that, and I don't think Aaron is either. Of course, Zach is stubborn when it comes to that, and we shall see how it goes. All right. So he leaves and he calls Karen and tells Karen his plan is to get a trust for his baby. And Karen's like, "We're not raising my babies or the baby separately." And Zach's like, "That's not what I'm talking about." Blah 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 blah. And Karen's like, "Who put you up to this? Was this Fatima or my friend Danny?" Zach said, "No, it's mine." Blah 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 blah. And basically, Karen said, "You better come up with something else." We move on to Fatima and Andy. They're at the office. Fatima tells Andy about the twins, and then Andy tells Fatima about Gary and the special agent. And Fatima's like, "Well, how do you know it won't be used against you as far as if you testify against Gary?" And Fatima's like, "Well, I didn't really think of that, and I don't see what would be the issue." Fatima said, "You better think long and hard on what you're going to actually say because it could come back on you." Um, and she said, "Don't you think that this is too good to be true? They're going to help with Penelope because it's like, why is the FBI wanting this Gary stuff but not really checking in on this Penelope mess? You know?" So hopefully Andy listens. Lord, I need to know who is writing Maurice's lines. His reads are so crazy. Lord. So at the bank, Maurice and the coworker, they're arguing. A lady comes up and wants to deal with Maurice. She's a long-standing customer and also knows Maurice. And the other girl, the white girl, is being very disparaging and quite microaggressive and treating him like he's a criminal and trying to talk all this mess. Of course, Maurice is giving it right back to her, and that's just that on that. After the customer leaves, he gives her a warning. Well, not a warning. He stands up for himself and says, "Hey, if you think I'm about to lose my job again for you, you better think of that again." And of course, he's giving him all these reasons. He goes to talk with Sabrina. He opens the door, and Sabrina is about to put a needle in her to get her hormones together for IVF so she can actually ovulate and get pregnant. Um, he tells her about what's going on with this girl. He did tell her, try crystal meth, don't try me. It's on brand for you. But he says, I'm not losing my job for her. Blah, 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 blah. So at the beauty shop, Pam and Karen, they talk. Basically says, don't you want Trey, the UPS guy? She said, no. Aaron stops by, and Karen finds out that Aaron is an investor in Roots to Riches. The most we heard is that Pam wanted to ask him about it, but we didn't know if he actually said yes or no to it. But it is official. And Karen's like, when were y'all gonna tell me about this? Da 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 da. Aaron speaks with Karen alone in regards to the twins, and he's more into co-parenting. And Karen says, well, you know, Zach, he's kind of doing this whole separate thing. And Aaron was like, well, I think me and him need to have a talk. And Karen's like, no, because when y'all get together, it's never a good thing, which we all agree. You need a referee. But he said, no, I think this time will be good. Jordan, he's been following Gary and Hudson. Hudson's coming out of a building and he watches Jordan argue with this girl. Once Hudson walks off, he approaches the girl and acts like he's not Jordan. She recognizes him as that, but he says, no, I guess I just look like him. I'm about to apply for a job at this place, and he wants some information on Hudson and Gary. They walk off. Her name is Claire, who this girl is, and we'll see what he actually gets from her or what she tells. I have a feeling that that is the decoy that um, Gary and Hudson were talking about in the parking garage. All right, so we're back with Karen and Pam at the shop. Um, Pam's like, "Is everything all right?" Because Karen's at this point where she's is ashamed that she's got these two baby fathers, and she's not saying anything as of yet to nobody. And Karen's like, "I'm absolutely fine," and she notices Pam that Karen's just not as moody or whatever. They talk a little bit about the Aaron thing and why would you do that? Don't you think that he was just trying to get close to me and all this stuff? And Pam's like, "No, I don't think so." You know, blah 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 blah. And then Trey comes back. He asks another time, "You want to go on a date?" And she says no. She's not interested in him like that. But he said, "Well, I don't want things to become weird if we um, later on, if you don't want to do anything with me as far as a dating or whatever." And she said, "No, please come around because your inner." I'm paraphrasing, but your energy is really good for the air, for the uh, for the energy for the atmosphere. Blah 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 blah. All right, so Aaron and Zach they meet up. Zach is at the basketball court. He's shooting his hoops. Aaron comes by, and of course, Zach is like, "Why are you following me? Can you get out of my life?" And they talk about the whole separate baby thing. Zach is still hell bent on doing it separately, but Aaron's like, "No, we need to raise these children together." Zach says, "Don't you have two other children?" He does say yes, but the grandmother, has custody of both children, and she won't let him see them, and he thinks that this is his second chance at fatherhood, and he just wants to work together with Zach. Zach is like, I don't know why you're trying to act this way for Karen. She does not need a knight in shining armor. Why don't you get some balls about the whole situation? Aaron is still pressing the issue that we need to work together. Da, 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 da. Zach is getting heated, but he said, look, I'm trying to change. I'm going to go to a church and pray because it's about to get ugly. And he walks off. So, um, we move on to Danny and Sabrina. Danny has the secret about Karen, and she says, I'm trying to be a good friend, but if you guess it right, then technically I didn't really tell you what's going on. Like, Danny, you told her basically. Come on now. Uh, so now Sabrina knows regarding Karen having two baby daddies. Tony comes in and he knocks and does his pleasantries. Sabrina ends up leaving, and Tony wants to have a conversation with Danny. And his girl ended up taking Danny's handcuffs. If you remember the last episode, while she was babysitting, she asked about them, but I didn't know that she took the handcuffs. And what she did is that she took them to school and wanted one of the other playmates to play with her, or classmates to play with her with them. And basically, he's pissed because it's like, how come you weren't watching them and taking responsibility? She said, She happened to run into what was going on. I explained to her the best way I could about them things, but I didn't tell her specifically what they were for. Tony's upset because you're supposed to be the responsible adult. And she's like, hey, I didn't have a chance to clean up and prepare. It was all last minute. You brought him on me. It's not my fault in regards to that. I don't think that Danny knew that she took the handcuffs with her. Um, Basically, um, Danny feels like she did the best that she could, and I can see Tony's point, but at the same point, at the same turn, like Tony, you are dealing with Danny, and now you are imposing on her and trying to fit her in your world that she's not really ready for. You got all this stuff going on, and now Danny is supposed to be this person for you in this way when you know that she's not really ready for. And I don't think it's fair, sir. But anyways, he's upset. He ends up leaving, or Danny tells him to go. All right, so we coming to the conclusion. Zach and Fatima, they talk. Fatima prepares his dinner, and all this good stuff. And Zach basically says, "You know what? You're right." And Fatima's like, really? Yeah. About the whole thing with Karen and also with Aaron and all that good stuff. Fatima finds out that with the whole Gary situation, it does not look good, and there's some verbiage in the contract that Zach signed that says that he's able to move the money where he wants to for the investment, whatever money he's invested. So at this point, Zach is like, he suggests it in a way of, well, I hope you don't get your family involved to take care of Gary. And then, of course, Fatima laughs and smirks, like, okay. So basically, we about to get Miss Lady from the cousin, from all the Queen's men, to show up on the stage over here, to deal with Gary. Um, Then the ending scene, Jordan's in his car and he calls and says, "Hey, I want to come over to your house. I need to talk to you about certain stuff." And then Gary comes to the back seat of the car and he says, "Hey, oh, is that my old B? You know, Itch." Um, and then Andy asks Jordan, "Are you okay?" And then we end the episode there. It was a cool episode. Not a lot of action, but it looks like we're developing into something. Y'all can tell me your thoughts below. I know a lot of people are hurt about this whole baby situation because they don't want Zach to be responsible for any of the babies. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I, you think Zach is really at the mature place of raising the babies together or not? Let me know. Um, I I think that there are high expectations from Tony for Danny that I think you really got to take in consideration, especially you want to date this woman, and she's not there, and I don't think it's totally fair in my opinion. But whatever. You think Karen and Trey going to eventually get together? Because I think right now she's thinking about her situation, and Trey is not intimidated by that at all. But we shall see. Or do you think Pam is going to want to date Trey later on? Uh, those are that's the review and some of my thoughts and questions. You can let me know below. But that's all that I have this week for this episode of Sisters. Please like and subscribe to my channel and leave your comments below. Until next week or until the next video. Peace.